Kadesh Orchas Karpas Yachas. We're up to Magid. Stop. Magid. We tell the story of Bnei Israel. Actually, Magid begins way before that. The Haggadah mentions Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and then talks about how Bnei Israel ended up in Egypt, and then, of course, everything that happened to them, how they became slaves. Moshe was born, put in a little basket. You have your little booklet, and so you can look at it. You can finish coloring it, and that's Magid. Also part of Magid is we go through the Eser Makot, the 10 plagues, the 10 punishments. And so earlier in a video, I sang a song, which I'm not going to sing again, Bad Things Will Come to Egypt. So you can play it a couple of times till you know it. But you know what the plagues are. Dam, blood, Spardea, frogs, Kinim, lice, Arob, the wild animals, Deber, the animals that belonged to the Egyptians, got sick and died. Shechin, the blisters, the boils, the sores all over the bodies. Barad, the fire and the hail that came down together, and the fire didn't melt the ice, and the ice didn't put out the fire. Arbed, grasshoppers eating everything that was still growing. Choshech, darkness. They couldn't even see their own hands in front of them. That's how dark it was. And Makat Bechorot, the oldest of the Egyptians, died. And of course, you know that the greatest miracle of all of these punishments was the Jews who were living in Goshen, which was a part of Egypt, weren't affected by any of the punishments. So they had water. Their water didn't turn into blood. The frogs didn't go into Goshen. So all of these punishments did not affect Bnei Israel. And at this point, we drink the second cup of wine without the beracha. You just drink it. And now we're ready for the next part of our Seder. We've done Kadesh Orchas Karpas Yachas Magid. We're up to Rochsa. We wash our hands. This time we say the beracha al netilat yadayim, because we're going to be ready to eat masa after this. And so we wash our hands and say al netilat yadayim. Mosi masa. We eat masa. And when we eat the masa, this time we say two berachot. We say hamosi lechem min haaretz, and we say asher kiddishanu b'misvotav v'sivanu al achilat masa. And so everybody gets their first taste of masa, and it tastes so good and crunchy at the Seder, and we love it. Kadesh Orchas Karpas Yachas Magid Rosa Mosi Masa Maror. Stop. Maror. We eat the bitter lettuce and we dip it into the charoset. So the bitter lettuce is because bitter, as you well know, anything that tastes bitter does not taste very good. And the lives that Bnei Israel had in Egypt as slaves, people say it was bitter. It was bitter. It was a terrible life. They weren't free. They worked so hard, and they couldn't do anything that Jewish people normally do and be free to celebrate. And so their lives were bitter. We dip it in charoset. People make it out of dates, nuts. I make it out of apples and nuts. It looks a little bit like the bricks that Bnei Israel was forced to make, all those bricks to build, all those pyramids and everything else that they had to build. Also, charoset is a little bit sweet, so it helps take away the bitterness, the bitter taste of the maror. So it's dipped into, the second time we dip, into the charoset. We're up to Kadesh Orchas Karpas Yachas Magid Rochsa Mosi Masa Maror Kol We eat a sandwich. According to Rabbi Hillel, a sandwich made from matzah and maror. Because we are commanded to eat matzah and maror, so Rabbi Hillel said you should eat it together in a sandwich. And now everybody's favorite part of the Seder, Shulchan Orech. We're eating dinner, big meal, yummy. I'm sure your mommies, maybe your daddies, are cooking up a great meal for you to have. It's dinner time. So hopefully you're still awake at this point to have dinner with your whole family. That's Shulchan Orech. Kadesh Orchas Karpas Yachas Magid Rochsa Mosi Masa Maror Kodech Shulchan Orech Safon. We eat the afikoman. Afikoman means dessert. So the afikoman is the last thing that you're eating at your Seder, and it means dessert. I don't know about you. I'm not sure it's my favorite dessert that I ever had, but it is your dessert, and you eat your afikoman. Kadesh Orchas Karpas Yachas Magid Rochsa Mosi Masa Maror Kodech Shulchan Orech Safun Barech. Thank you, Hashem, for the food. What are we singing? Birkat HaMazon. You do it every day in school, you do it at home, and now you're singing it at your Seder. You're singing Birkat HaMazon. After Birkat HaMazon, you drink the third cup of wine. And this time you do say the beracha, Borei Peri HaGefen. After you drink your third cup of wine, it is time for Kadesh Orchas Karpas Yachas Magid Rochsa Mosi Masa Maror Kodech Shulchan Orech Safun Barech Hallel. Stop. Hallel. You know that we say Hallel on special days. We say it on holidays, on Rosh Chodesh. Hallel are simply songs that we sing to say thank you to Hashem for all the miracles that He did for us. And this whole story of Pesach is one miracle after another, of how He sent the plagues and how Yam Suf, the Red Sea, was split, and how He gave Bnei Israel man to eat in the desert. One miracle after another. And so you know Hallel from school, and you would be singing Min HaMesar and all of Hallel at your table. After Hallel, you drink the fourth cup of wine, the last cup of wine, without the beracha. And now you have finished drinking all 4 cups of wine. And so now we're up to the last part of our Seder. Kadesh Orchas Karpas Yachas Magid Rochsa Mosi Masa Maror Kodech Shulchan Orech Safon Barech Hallel Nirsa. You know, for many, many, many years, Jews all around the world lived in different places, and some places were great to live in, and some places weren't so great. And some places Jews weren't free to do all the things that Jewish people want to do: celebrate Shabbat, celebrate holidays, study the Torah, even have Hebrew names. And so at everybody's Seder, all those years, 1,000 years, we end our Seder by saying, L'shana haba'a b'Yerushalayim. Next year, every Jew should be in Yerushalayim. that every Jew should be in Israel and Yerushalayim to have their Seder, because all those years when people weren't free, they wanted to be free and to be in Yerushalayim to celebrate. Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim, Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim, Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim, Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim habnuya. That not only should we be in Yerushalayim, but the Beit HaMikdash should be rebuilt. This is over, and I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. I'm going to sleep. Laila Tov. Good night, everyone.